brewing friends.
Hello everyone, dear homebrewers, thirsty as always for knowledge like me and excited to understand how to make a good tasting beer on your own. With this extensive, laboriously produced new video series, I will have the pleasure to tell you about an important step of the brewing, very dear to me. I'm talking about mashing. I don't want to waste time. However, I need to explain you first the malted barley, the other kind of grains, also the malting process. As you may know, beer is a sweet mixed result of the fermentation of the wort, made with mashing some cereals and followed hopping. The cereal is the barley. Its grain is a caryopsis, a fruit with the same name, or botanically speaking,
The Hordeum vulgaris species,
which belongs to Poaceae family, also known as Graminae. The barley, rich in starch but poor in fats, is easily cultivable in many areas of the earth, in different times of the year. The barley was probably one of the first cereals cultivated by man around 12,000 years ago. Unbelievable. Indeed, barley is a very fast germination process and can be cultivated at various temperatures. There are many kinds of barleys. Among the various kinds of barley, a difference is in number of the rows through the rachis. We have, for example, 2 row barley and 6 row barley, with 2 or 6 lines each. The most used one by brewers is the 2 row barley, because it resists at low temperature during cultivation and because the grain have more starch and low proteins, which are essential during beer production. But be careful, because if it's used in excess, it could cause strange results in our beloved beer. The caryopsis contains starch, which we could consider a provision of energy wrapped up in endosperm. This energy will be released in the first phase of the growing plant when the germination process begins. Even before that, the sun plays its important role in the complex process that we all know as chlorophyll and photosynthesis. Even though it's very interesting, it doesn't concern us, we have another purpose. Inside the grain, during the germination, many enzymes, very particular protein which we are going to talk about later, will be synthesized. The dismemberment of the cell walls containing starch, a very complex kind of sugar, will be caused by some enzymes. After that, some other enzymes will cause the dismemberment of the long starch chains, then turn it into a more simple sugar. Then the energy is immediately usable for the growth of the sprout. The malting process is used on the barley or other hot grass to make sure that these enzymes are synthesized and that the starch is convertible to a more simple sugar. This conversion is necessary because the fermentation that comes from the common yeast used for the brewing can't happen through the sugar such complex like the starch. The brewer will enjoy the enzymatic activity during the mashing phase. But to put it in a barley shell, what is the malting process? What which are the enzymes that will be formed? What will they do? What are their names? Under which conditions will they perform their task? Why do I exist and annoy you with these videos? All questions that make us stay up while others sleep. In this new series of videos, I will try to answer satisfactorily all these questions, some of which are very important to our anaerobic activity. The malting process takes place on a gramínea, which it has to meet very strict quality parameters. The first step is the induction of the germination. How? By placing the grain into water. The moisture will hold germination in a couple of days. At the beginning of the germination, this will be left alone for about 1 week or so, and that's when the little roots start growing. The length of time could be different according to the kind of malt and the sprout length, which should be at least 3/4 length of the grain. We named this step modification of malt. Nowadays, most of the malt is modified so that we can have more starch but low proteins. This factor will make the brewer's job easier. The germinated barley is now ready to be called green malt. After that, we can go to the second step of the mashing process, which consists in the drying and roasting with hot air on the grains. This process reduces the humidity inside the grains, stops their germinative process and enzymatic activity. According to the timing, the drying temperature and the roasting phase, we will obtain a darker or lighter malt with different levels of enzymatic activities or completely absent activities, with different combination of starch and protein, and of course with various organoleptic characteristics. I will have the pleasure to show you the several kinds of malts and their characteristics. In order to avoid any problems during the beer making process and to improve the finished product, you should remove the little roots from the grains because they are full of proteins. After this phase, we will see the storage of grains for at least 1 month. Now we can talk about the real barley malt. What a happiness for the brewer! Many brewers buy the barley already malted, but some brewers have decided to make their lives more complicated, but also a little more interesting by malting the barley by themselves. I have to stop now. Time is a tyrant, alas. In the next video we will catch up. A heartfelt goodbye and very big thanks for watching.
The Ordium vulgare. Indeed, barley has a very fast germination process and can be cultivated at very temperatures. Indeed, barley has a very barley has a very fermentation. There are many kinds of barleys. Among a difference is in the number. We have, for example, we have the most used one. What are we talking? What? All questions that make us stay up while others sleep. The moisture will allow the germination in a couple of days. The moisture will allow the germination. The moisture will allow the germination. The moisture will allow germination in a couple of days. The moisture will allow germination in a couple of days. The moisture will allow germination in a couple of days.